Sitting here with Sean Jarman. Did I say that right?
Yes.
I love it. Thank you for coming back again. I was really excited the first time we sat and spoke. You are a practitioner at WNC Holistic Center.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, how's that going?
Awesome. It's wonderful, actually.
Yeah.
A year ago, this was an interesting a dreaming coming true, really, a vision come true. And a year later, it's just impressive the journey that's gotten me from a tiny little room into something that's grown so big, from moving from Hickory, North Carolina to here almost overnight. Just through great energy and great connections and great people that want to do something more with their life, and found the services that I do. And really, I shifted rooms. We've collaborated on lots of different clients who've come through needing all kinds of different services, and being able to share and help people journey through their health. It's been great.
Awesome. So I want to brag about you a little bit.
All right.
And I'm going to do it by you telling us how amazing you are. And how long have you been in the practice of social work, counseling?
No, counseling. I've been doing therapy since really 1994 when I came to North Carolina to do that. Working for a wilderness camp backside of Hendersonville for emotionally disturbed kids. And that sort of led me on a journey of working with youth at risk, to adults, to couples, to senior citizens. Worked deep with schizophrenia. But a lot just working with families and individuals. So a lot of work I do now is primarily with adults and couples. I do work with families with the neurofeedback that I do. It has been a really great journey in the therapy realm, adding lots of different modalities. There's so many different tools I have in my toolbox, and that's really what I've done. I collected a lot of tools, put them in the toolbox, and get it used specifically for that person. It's very client-centered, focused kind of work, kind of therapy.
Yeah, and I'm going to guess people are listening now going, oh, I'd love to send my kids, if they have them, to a camp. We can't send them anywhere right now with the corona situation going on. What would be something that maybe parents can do with the kids, from the experience you have, that could be more of a fun experience?
Anything that a group, family can do outdoors together is important. Just a little bit ago, finished up with a family of 4. We're doing some neurofeedback, so I get to see everyone's brains and how they're all synced up together, because they do everything together, from the school piece, from the outdoor piece, the creative piece, different things is to get out, but eating together. It really has brought in the family table that we kind of missed. This we realize in this current environment is that we've been traveling like at 100 miles an hour, and all of a sudden somebody put the brakes on. And so groups of people have to get together and eat, sleep, live together, which has been great. Put the cell phones down, interact at the table. What's life like for you? What's life like for you? What are your ideas? What are your feelings and thoughts about things and the struggles? And do it together as a family. So that's important. Being outside in nature is very important. Get to a place where you can take your shoes off and actually implant your feet into nature is really good.
Ground out.
Ground out. Lay down. Actually put your spinal column to the earth. The earth frequency is 7.83 hertz. That's a very good low frequency for us to kind of resonate with. Actually, folks who meditate, I don't know if when you meditate, I know when I do, and lots of my friends do, that actually it's interesting at meditating, when you're sitting on the ground, maybe in a yoga seated position, you'll find you actually end up rocking in a rhythm that's just natural to the earth. So getting into touch with that, so you connect from the earth to you, to individual, then as a family, really helps lower reactivities to things that may come up when you have teenagers that want to explore independence, but they can't because they're stuck with you. You're the parent telling them what to do. Third thing I would say is to do a lot of asking, like we're going to be doing today. Asking versus telling. It's easy for us as parents and adults to tell someone what to do.
Ask.
Johnny, take out the trash. Ask. Would you please take out the trash?
I think my dad might have a problem with that in raising us.
Yeah, I was told a lot, but what we want 4 things as humans. We want 4 things. We want fun, freedom, power, and belonging. And when we are dictated to, it kind of robs us of those things. From the little kid to the teen to that young adult to the grown up. We want those things.
Right.
We want some power and autonomy. And we
So
want
I
to
have
be
to go back.
independent. Yeah.
I have to go back to the question though, because I'm trying to picture me asking my kids, "Would you take out the trash?" It's like giving them an option to say no.
Correct. So you ask, and then you tell.
Ah, okay.
So we start with asking. It gives power of choice.
But they understand that it's really not
that.
an option.
Sure, right.
It's just
Yeah.
a nice way to tell them what to do.
And you can even state it too. I'd love it when you take the trash out. I mean, there's different family
I would
dynamics
appreciate
about
you taking the trash out.
Absolutely. And one of the dynamics of family, when it has an input, your input is to go to work, to bring home to the funds to be able to supply, keeping the home. Well, children don't necessarily have jobs, but they can have input into the home, like what's their job? It teaches them responsibility. It teaches them accountability. What happens when we don't do it? So in a family setting, empowering them to actually come up with the list is important too. We can do telling, but when you can sit down with a family, I'll do this with family work, I set up a poster board with what are the family rules we have for our home. And it goes on the wall. Who wrote it? The kids. Guidance from the parents, but like, what rules should we have in our home? Little Johnny's talking about his little sister. No poking eyes out. Okay, so don't poke eyes out. And then what do we do with those? Well, and they can help come up with consequences. So when you have involvement and participation, it gives everyone power, gives them fun to be able to do and create what we want to do for fun. Freedom to be able to have the choice to be able to say, this is how I feel and believe. And then belonging. We are top of a community, our little community.
I love it. We're looking, here at How Are You Healing? We are looking every day to see how we can structure our life or set up our life so that we're healing better, so that we're healing faster, so that we're removing anything that obstructs the natural healing process. What you're talking about is a healing in spiritual, social, I'm guessing affects, because we have a brain sitting here on a table, affects the cortisol levels.
So when we get stressed out, there's a part of the brain, I mentioned this before, right in the center of the brain, like I'm dissecting, from the amygdala that's here in the limbic system that pumps cortisol to the prefrontal cortex. That's this area of the brain, this front part.
Right.
This is our thinking, decision-making area, right? And so when we are flooded with cortisol, then we have a harder time making decisions because we're dealing with danger.
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight. Do I fight this saber-toothed tiger that's coming after me from a primitive sense, or do I run?
So what's coming up for me is don't make a decision or a major decision after someone dies, after some kind of trauma because of this.
Because of what happens. So, but there's a way out in an immediate sense, which is the breath. And breath is where we started life. That's where we end life. It's breath and everything in between. Is to simply, I tell folks that, when you are on fire, remember in school you were on fire and said, what do you do when you're on fire? And then you're supposed to
stop, drop, roll.
Stop, drop, and roll. So I say stop what you're doing. You're going to be making a decision, getting stressed out. Drop, meaning sit down and breathe. So stop, drop, and breathe. Oxygen brought into the brain through the sinus cavity, so in through the nose. Do a deep cat-cow breath, yoga breath. Pushing all the CO2, using the diaphragm to push the CO2 out. Gets oxygen fully in your head. You might get a little dizzy. It feels great. So oxygen quells the cortisol fire and then allows you to actually make a decision. And you're going to sit there and be relaxed. I'm telling you, 1 minute.
Yeah.
60 seconds of maybe 4 rounds of breath is enough to have anyone make a better decision about what they're going to do. Same thing when they say timeouts. Well, that was fine. Go sit in the chair. Well, what did I do? When my dad sent me to timeout, I fussed and fumed. I didn't want to breathe. But when we actually take our kids in general and say, why don't we just stop what we're doing right now? Because they weren't listening. We go over and we sit down. Let's just breathe. I have spouses. I'll say, if you're before you just have a discussion as a couple, one person's mad at the other, I want you to hold hands, look at each other, and just simply breathe for 1 minute. What that does is it gets the heart rates and the oxygen, everyone's on the same level, as opposed to, one spouse is all fired up and the other's going, I don't understand. Usually me. And so, but this brings us at the same kind of level. Now we can have a discussion together.
Right.
And so the breath is so important. We minimize it. We throw it around like it's nothing. You know, breath and water.
I'm relating in a way that I didn't realize, because we have a little ritual at our house where we'll have dinner. I get home around 6:30, have dinner, and then sit out on the front porch. It's light until 8, 9 o'clock now.
Great.
And as the sun is setting and we do a little watering, we'll sit on the couches and just they'll be quiet for 2-3 minutes, just breathing, smelling. And I wasn't conscious of that's what's happening. I just knew that this felt right. It was relaxing.
Be still and know. You know, it's a great motto that I have, is to be still and know. You can't really gain attunement to your senses until you're still enough to actually do that.
Right.
Because your ears don't turn off when you sleep. Your nose doesn't turn off. Those are great, alarm systems. But the breathing and the relaxation gets you in tune to everyone else around you. The pulse rates get all together.
How do you find healing? What is healing in your profession, in your expertise?
Healing is about finding harmony and balance within all areas of your life, from the physical aspects and how you attune to the natural world. And that includes relationships, because life is relationships. I mean, I'm having a relationship with this chair right now, and I have a relationship with air, but in relationships with others, and that's described through language. But when you have harmony and balance with those things, then healing can occur. Why? Because we're taking the time and space to actually deal with what's going on, being still and knowing. And from there we can make good decisions. The problem arises, we're so reactive in our world. This is why I kind of got into the neurofeedback, because it helps reduce reactivity. Our reactivity in our world is so high, sensitivity is so high, and our resiliency is like out the floor. So when we can actually take time to look and see what are the operating factors behind some of the dis-ease, right? Not disease, but dis-ease. Well, that's really what it means, isn't it? From there, we can actually make better decisions, and usually that's going to be done through relationships. So, for example, clients that I have, they'll be here, but they're dealing with some other things. I say, well, why don't you go down and talk to Dr. Fortini about that, and let's work on the spinal column so that we get the subluxation gone to bring in good alignment with the brain, doing the work that I'm doing. And so those together, that's a relationship. And connecting with community and smaller relationships. So this interesting time period, we've gone from 100 miles an hour to 20 miles an hour, has allowed us to actually stop and begin to connect with what's around us. That's really the natural way of being. It's artificial to move from 0 to 60.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't run that fast, so it's definitely artificial, right? But we've been thinking like this is norm. We actually are at a state of a walking pace, minus getting on maybe a horse and walking around. We're from a walking place. So part of that healing is being able to stop and slow down.
You mentioned when you do neurofeedback. So I'm going to guess some people listening are not quite sure how you define that versus biofeedback even. Same thing, different thing?
So it's a form of biofeedback. It's giving you information back to you based on what's going on with your biology. You're taking your temperature is biofeedback, your pulse. So the neurofeedback that I do is created by Lynn Oakes, and he's been doing traditional neurofeedback for years, where you have sensors all over your head, you're watching perhaps a screen, it's receiving the information of the amplitudes from your head through the EEG, right, QEEG, and...
You say your head, you mean your brain?
Your brain.
Gotcha.
So from your brain, and takes the information, creates, it has a program, and you actually look at the screen and you interact with it with your mind. It's kind of really interesting. You're training the brain, and it takes many, many sessions for longer periods of each session time to do that. And so it's very active, and it can be very tiring for clients. Len Oakes decided that we can do it using lower energy form of feedback to the brain. We're actually going to disentrain. We're going to free up some stuck neural pathways, and with only 2 sensors, and actually what we're going to do is send the signal back to your head. So you actually close your eyes and you do no thing. So you sit in the chair, I have a couple sensors on your head, move them around, It's sort of like I'm going to do a slight disruption in your mind. Like if you give me $1 and I give that right back to you, how would you feel about that? Be fair is fair. You're okay with that, right?
Yeah.
But if you give me $1 and I give you back 2 pennies,
We have a problem.
you have a problem, kind of a reaction. That's what we're doing with the brain. We're giving the brain back not equal, it's sort of a distortion. And in that way, it does change neural pathways that are maybe have been stuck from, I don't know, it could be a past head injury, could be a lot of different factors. But you don't have to do a lot. So it's very fast, not as few, in a few sessions to get through and have a greater result. So I watch people's anxiety and depression come down, their reactivity and sensitivity get in balance, so their interaction with their world, which meaning like their spouse or their family or their employer, is much more in balance. Then they can really focus on what do I want to do in life? What's my vision for life? How do I want to interact with the world? And actually, the truth be told, there's they really get a sense of who they are, what they are, and where they are, which the current world is completely distracts us.
Right.
Pick up your phone because it's a complete distraction for the entire being, which is what you are, a being of love and light in this human form, having experiences. And once you get that, in this place called now. And if you can get there, then life around you really changes. But that's not where most people are. It's I am my body and I'm in the future or the past. And that's the life that they're led to believe.
So I'm going to guess that having an experience that we're having, if we have a repetitive experience or a really traumatic experience, it creates a file in our brain.
That's right.
And with neurofeedback, you might be able to find that file and defrag it, or...
That's a good way to put it, the defrag button. Well, sort of, but I think that more importantly is discovering what the file is, taking note. Like when you go outside your car and you see, how do you know you have a flat tire? Well, you have to acknowledge it exists first. I have a flat tire. Then make a decision. What do you want to do with it? So take a trauma, for example, identify that it exists, that it's there,
right.
And then what do you want to do with it? Do you want to take it on as if it's happening every single moment? Or identify, you know what, this is information that I've experienced. It's never going to leave this supercomputer of my brain, but it doesn't have to be the file on my desktop every single day.
Right.
And we can move it into a space. So I use also another technique and tool in my toolbox called EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. I say that 10 times fast, right? But it uses eye movements to, which is kind of it's a REM sleep, your dreaming sleep, in a conscious state. And I can also do that with the neurofeedback. So it helps process that information because we take these experiences thinking we are the experience. Like if I said, I'm mad.
Yeah. We identify.
That's not right. I am not mad. I am a being of love and light in a human form having an experience of anger.
Right.
That's a totally definition.
That's you're separating.
Totally separate. And when you get there, that lessens dis-ease. Because I am not attached to the anger, I'm experiencing it. Dis-ease.
I got that.
Right? I want ease. Well, ease comes from knowing what's the truth. What am I? Where am I? Who am I? When we get that, then the decisions I want to make about the vision of my life. And so I'll take clients through this journey of moving from understanding those concepts into finally, what is the vision you have? What do you want to create? What do you want to have manifest?
I want to bring you back to eye movement desensitization. What
Reprocessing.
What are you desensitizing? How is that?
Well, let's say, for example, let's say someone who has a rape, a sexual trauma.
Right.
Okay. Or it could be someone from
that's good.
being in Iraq, for example, being a veteran.
Yeah, sure.
Either one, both significant
Post-traumatic.
traumas. Post-traumatic stress disorder, for example. We attach that event and think about it over and over, and actually can not just think about it, but feel it as if it's occurring right now. It stays present.
It's real.
It's very real. Now, that event will never leave our brain.
Right.
It's like a filing cabinet. The problem is the drawer of the filing cabinet keeps coming open, and that file that says my trauma keeps getting slammed on my front desk, and I always have to see it all day long.
Car backfires, we're back in Iraq.
Correct.
A woman hears the man's voice similar to the man.
Is in fearful there might be rape.
Cortisone.
Cortisol pumps immediately to the front of the head.
Right.
Just like that. So the breath is one way.
So
but then with the EMDR, we can use, by looking at every event in our life has us create a sort of a statement about, it's a belief statement about ourselves.
I am worthy, I'm not worthy,
I'm
matter.
incompetent, I'm not capable, I'm a failure. I hear, more than anything, I hear, I don't have value and I'm a failure. Most of the time in sessions. It's like the most frequent things I hear.
So what are we desensitizing?
So we take those phrases and we use the eye movements to actually, I have them envision their experience. And it's hold on to the same, in the belief statement at the same time, I'm a failure or whatever, while they're watching my eyes go back and forth. And we're watching my fingers go back and forth with their eyes. It actually reduces their attachment and physical sensations they have in their body. They have a hard time even holding on to the memory and the phrase.
Oh.
And they can't really do it. So then we shift into a positive belief statement, like, I'm a powerful, wonderful, amazing woman, for example. Or whatever the belief is that they want to create.
Right.
So same old trauma, same old story in the back of their mind. They can see it like playing out like a movie, and this new belief statement, and then it just shifts into, it almost dissipates. The file goes back into the file drawer. It gets closed. Just because it comes up like any other memory in your mind, they now have the power to not have to let it run over their lives through the day. That's really cool. When you can actually go, you know what? Thank you for sharing is what I teach people. It pops up in their head. Thank you for sharing. Go back to your little hole and doesn't run the life, because now I am an amazing being of love and light, having an experience that I get to choose. That's way different than I'm just subject to my reality. Most people believe life is happening to you. It doesn't happen to you. I mean, outside of a Mack truck running you over today, you know, you're in charge of the life you're living. It's not happening to you all the time. Even when someone says something that happens to be a trigger, you still have choice, don't you? I mean, so fun, freedom, the freedom of that choice, power to be able to make your decisions, and to belong in groups that are going to also support you. I mean, we're social creatures.
So having a choice of not having these past traumatic disorders pop up is a choice with therapy or training.
Right.
And if a person's moving their eyes back and forth, and with your guidance is hearing about the trauma that they went through, their eyes are moving back and forth, they're trying to picture this, the eyes aren't moving proper with the way the trauma used to be, and it's desensitizing something.
That's it.
And then as you continue to speak to them with their eyes moving back and forth, then you start giving positive affirmations. Then they start to repeat that.
Well, no, step back for a second. When we're doing the eye movements, I'm not talking.
Oh, okay.
We're just doing the eye movements. So I had them set up, and so I said, now I want you to think about that event, and I want you to hold in your mind this belief statement. Right. And then we'll go through the bilateral stimulations.
I gotcha.
And then I always ask, well, that was, 30 seconds worth. What'd you notice? And usually some interesting things happen when we do this process. Is that I had someone I was working with dealing with something that happened recently as an adult, but as he was watching my fingers, he actually came to an aha moment about something that happened to him when he was 5 years old, that set up a belief statement then about his relationship with his father, and that he had no power and he didn't have any value. So we went and we worked on that incident actually. And once we cleared that out, he had this sort of eureka moment about, no, I do have power in my life. And he had this turnaround in his experience of everyday living that we cleared out through the incident at 5 years old. But we started with something that was more recent, that was very traumatic for him, very, very significant. So the process, when what do you notice through these bilateral stimulations? It's pretty amazing what begins to show up for you, and just clear it out. Yeah. It's like dusting your house. You clear out all the stuff.
That's the reprocessing,
right.
EMDR.
The reprocessing.
Wonderful.
Then combine that with the neurofeedback at the same time, because I have a protocol with carrier waves, working because what happens when you're, let's take the brain again, EMDR and the neurofeedback, is that the occipital lobe back here, this is where the processing center is occurring from the eyeballs, going back and forth, applies back here. So this eye, this occipital lobe, this eye, this occipital lobe, back and forth. And that's what happens when you're dreaming, REM sleep. Your brain is trying to process all the day's events and all the things that are going on. And it does it back here. Well, there's a protocol with the carrier waves that I can put sensors back here and apply carrier waves at certain rates onto the occipital lobe. Doing the same process. So doing an EMDR session followed up by a neurofeedback session with that, It's just really powerful. And I'm so excited, like when I see clients just kind of come back into the next session and I'll say, well, how was your week? Or how was since last session? There's like, oh my gosh, these great things are happening. You know, it's a joy and a blessing and a privilege to be a part of somebody, you know, having these changes in their life. That really is probably it's amazing. That's the real paycheck in the world. When you watch, I know for you, when you have somebody coming into your office and they're like, how you feeling? Well, I'm much better. This is going well. And like, well, great. That's what we want. Harmony, balance.
And that brings me always to the question of, how are you healing? Because sometimes we feel good and we think we're healing and we're not. We're creating cancer. People are walking around right now feeling well and they are pre-diabetic, don't even know it. About to be diabetic. Some diabetic don't even know it. People are walking around right now with cancer cells that are building. It takes 9 years sometimes for the size of a pea for a cancer cell to be palpated. So when we go through the medical check and they check us up, you know, in the allopathic model, in the version of no symptoms, no signs, everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
And we want to take that either beyond or just look at that as that, you know, how you feel isn't the yardstick of how you heal. It's a component of it. But we want you to be healing. And from what I heard from you today, some of the things that we can do immediately to increase our healing processes are breath work.
Mm-hmm.
And
definitely breath work. You know, not to mention exercise. I mean, those kind of go hand in hand. I'm a big proponent of having a yoga practice. It's just exercise at a slower pace.
And you do that every week?
I do yoga every day.
Okay.
As most I can. I'm at home. I'm going to do yoga. That's really important. Breath work every day. Meditation every day. That's also exercise. People don't realize, why don't many people meditate? Because they think, wow, it takes a lot of time. No, it actually doesn't. You can do a meditative process in about 15 minutes. It's that stillness. But we don't because, it's just I have to take time to do that. And you take time to do everything else, don't you?
Yeah.
Other things you take time to do.
Coming from New York, for me, meditation was like sitting down doing nothing for 15 minutes. I don't have time to do nothing.
Right. And it's the difference between no thing and something that is the balance. This whole C19 issue is really moved us from a world that's all about something. I must have something, do something, be something. And we moved into no thing. And we think that that's bad, right? If you have something, that's good. Have a private practice, that's something. That's good.
Get into the no thing.
The no thing it's equally important. Right? That's where seeds get to sit in the ground and you're waiting, where's the plant? It's doing nothing. Exactly.
That's a good thing.
It's doing a no-thing space. So having a balance of the two is important. The meditative spot of your day is great. You want to go for a run, you want to play basketball with a group of friends, fine. But where's your meditative space? So the yoga practice leads right into a meditation.
What are the benefits?
Well, I mean, it can connect you to your source. The source of your being, if that's where you are. It's a great way to do that. Just for breath, the breath work that's involved with the organ systems, that's another way to do it. It just pulls you down into finally from 100 to 0. And you need, why do we sleep? I mean, what's the purpose of sleeping? And we know we have different waves. So we have delta wave, which is our deep sleep. Theta is where we dream. Alpha is where we're kind of nice and meditative and we're calm. And then beta is where we are right now, this active, right? Delta is a very important place to be. Deep sleep. Your body drops down into deep sleep to recharge your batteries, to heal those wounds, to, hopefully, recharge those batteries. Theta is where the dreaming, so we're processing the mind. Then we come out of the mind into more of active with the alpha state. So there's different levels of which we need to be, and a lot of it is a no-thing space, and we forget that, how important that is. We got to go, 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 go. We look at all the substance use. It's about how can I continue to go? I need a little help. Right? Methamphetamine use is about go, 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 go.
Yeah. That's
when we need to slow.
I like that because it's like a little vacation every day.
That we cleared out through the incident at 5 years old, but we started with something that was more recent, that was very traumatic for him, very, very significant. So the process, when what do you notice through these bilateral stimulations? It's pretty amazing what begins to show up for you, and just clear it out.
Yeah.
It's like dusting your house. You clear all the stuff.
That's the
get rid of
reprocessing,
trash.
the R.
Right.
EMDR.
The reprocessing.
Wonderful.
Then combine that with the neurofeedback at the same time, because I have a protocol with carrier waves working because what happens when you're, let's take the brain again, EMDR and the neurofeedback, is that the occipital lobe back here, this is where the processing center is occurring from the eyeballs going back and forth, applies back here. So this eye, this occipital lobe, this eye, this occipital lobe, back and forth. And that's what happens when you're dreaming, REM sleep. Your brain is trying to process all the day's events and all the things that are going on. And it does it back here. Well, there's a protocol with the carrier waves that I can put sensors back here and apply carrier waves at certain rates onto the occipital lobe. Doing the same process. So doing an EMDR session followed up by a neurofeedback session with that, it's just really powerful. And I'm so excited, like when I see clients just kind of come back in the next session and I'll say, well, how was your week? Or how was since last session? There's like, oh my gosh, these great things are happening. It's a joy and a blessing and a privilege to be a part of somebody, having these changes in their life. That really is probably it's amazing. That's the real paycheck in the world. When you watch, I know for you, when you have somebody coming into your office and they're like, how you feeling? Well, I'm much better. This is going well. And like, well, great. That's what we want. Harmony, balance.
And that brings me always to the question of, how are you healing? Because sometimes we feel good and we think we're healing and we're not. We're creating cancer. People are walking around right now feeling well and they are pre-diabetic, don't even know it. About to be diabetic. Some diabetic don't even know it. People are walking around right now with cancer cells that are building. It takes 9 years sometimes for the size of a pea for a cancer cell to be palpated. So when we go through the medical check and they check us up, in the allopathic model, in the version of no symptoms, no signs, everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
And we want to take that either beyond or just look at that as that, how you feel isn't the yardstick of how you heal. It's a component of it. But we want you to be healing. And from what I heard from you today, some of the things that we can do immediately to increase our healing processes are breath work. And
definitely breath work. Not to mention exercise. I mean, those kind of go hand in hand. I'm a big proponent of having a yoga practice. It's just exercise at a slower pace.
And you do that every week?
I do yoga every day.
Okay.
As much as I can. I'm at home. I'm going to do yoga. That's really important. Breath work every day. Meditation every day. That's also exercise. People don't realize, why don't many people meditate? Because they think, wow, it takes a lot of time. No, it actually doesn't. You can do a meditative process in about 15 minutes. It's that stillness. But we don't because, it's just I have to take time to do that. And you take time to do everything else, don't you?
Yeah.
Other things you take time to do.
Coming from New York, for me, meditation was like sitting down doing nothing for 15 minutes. I don't have time to do nothing.
Right. And it's the difference between no thing and something that is the balance. This whole C19 issue has really moved us from a world that's all about something. I must have something, do something, be something. And we moved into no thing. And we think that that's bad, right? If you have something, that's good. Have a private practice, that's something. That's good.
Get into the no thing.
The no thing it's equally important. Right? That's where seeds get to sit in the ground and you're waiting, where's the plant? It's doing nothing. Exactly.
That's a good thing.
It's doing a no thing space. So having a balance of the two is important. The meditative spot of your day is great. You want to go for a run, you want to play basketball with a group of friends, fine. But where's your meditative space? So the yoga practice leads right into a meditation.
Sort of the benefits.
Well, I mean, it can connect you to your source. The source of your being, if that's where you are. It's a great way to do that. Just for breath, the breath work that's involved with the organ systems, that's another way to do it. It just pulls you down into finally from 100 to 0. And you need, why do we sleep? I mean, what's the purpose of sleeping? And we know we have different waves. So we have delta wave, which is our deep sleep. Theta is where we dream. Alpha is where we're kind of nice and meditative and we're calm. And then beta is where we are right now, this active, right? Delta is a very important place to be. Deep sleep. Your body drops down into deep sleep to recharge your batteries, to heal those wounds, to, hopefully recharge those batteries. Theta is where the dreaming, so we're processing the mind. Then we come out of the mind into more of active with the alpha state. So there's different levels of which we need to be, and a lot of it is a no-thing space, and we forget that, how important that is. We got to go, 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 go. We look at all the substance use. It's about how can I continue to go? I need a little help. Right? Methamphetamine use is about go, 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 go.
Yeah. That's.
When we need to slow, 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 slow.
I like that because it's like a little vacation every day.
In connection with other practitioners that are as much holistic as you can. You know, obviously some essential oil is not going to fix my broken bone. Okay, so there's a balance. But what can I do to prevent all those things? So prevent was a pound of cure for an ounce of prevention. So I would say that as the decades could begin to go on, staying in tune and connecting with other healing modalities is just really doing it all the time, because we're finding new things about how old ways actually, like the power of vinegar. There's a lot of power in vinegar, but no one really talks about that. Rather than do an antibiotic. But vinegar today will save you from actually having an antibiotic tomorrow. It's really
breathe and detoxify.
That's it. Detoxification.
Sean, I want to thank you and acknowledge you for your passion, your heart. I know you. I've known you for many, many days.
many days.
Months since you've been here at the center, WNC Holistic Center here in Nashville. Yeah. And if someone wanted to reach out and get in touch with you, what would be the best way to do that?
I have a business line, 828-302-3868, or just go to mynewjumpstart.com. And that'll bring to my website. It's got the same number on there. Call me, make an appointment, have a consultation, and talk about what you're thinking about and what do you think you need, and we can talk about what that would entail. So mynewjumpstart.com.
mynewjumpstart.com.
Yeah.
All right. So you've been listening to How Are You Healing with Sean Jarman. I'm Dr. Michael Fortini, and we want you to have a blessed day.
Absolutely.